Hi and welcome back. Thanks for coming back. Hopefully you got through the video with the live demonstration of the unported version and ported version of the two cylinder runners of 2 and 5. Okay, so here we are. This next section is just going to be on if you do take the decision to port your intake, on what to focus on, what areas that you can achieve. If you follow these rules, you'll be able to pretty much get the results that I was able to get, that I've demonstrated to you. Quick note, I will splice in some video on this. It's not always easy, so it might not be clean cut, but I'll splice in some video that's more focused, and I'll focus in on here as I explain the areas that you need to rework so you can kind of see it before and after. You will notice that my surfaces that I use, they tend to be, it's more scratchy, okay? You notice there's not going to be a high glare or a polish on there. And just to give you a real quick layman's kind of like direction on why to go that way, because everybody's got it ingrained in their head that they should polish, porting polish. But here's the deal. The reason this intake I've done, and this is for my own car, okay? So this is what I use on mine, so this is what I'm recommending you follow the suit. What happens is that there's wet flow you need to consider, okay? Right now I'm just showing you on the flow bench that's is dry, it's just air, but you also have fuel that has to flow through this. So when you polish this and make it real smooth, what happens is the fuel already has a tendency, when you spray the fuel in the injectors, in this case goes into the intake runner, it will already tend to coagulate and pool up together. So when you polish it, it just makes that surface, makes it easier for it to build up and pool itself together. So what you can kind of do is to counteract that is that you make this surface, now you do clean up the casting flash and make it smooth because that will reduce heat. But if you feel this, it's almost like a real fine grit wet sandpaper, okay? It's got a little bit scratchy surface, but what that does is when the fuel hits it, instead of allowing it to pull together, it kind of breaks it apart, which allows it to get evaporated better into the air charge. And second, it will also slow it down from pulling up together and then going into the cylinder, not getting mixed well. And what happens is when you have like a fuel wash, it goes right into the cylinder and it goes right onto the piston and goes by the rings and washes the oil off the walls of the cylinder, which will make the engine wear out quicker. So in a nutshell, that's a real kind of rough example on why it's not good to polish. Okay, even in the fuel injection, I still, when I work these runners, I work them up to the plenum, I run a little bit rougher because when a valve shuts, if there's some fuel left in the charge in there, it circles back up. So you want it to not allow it to pool, and it already will to a certain point, but by leaving it a little bit of a rougher surface, you can even leave it as a 60 grit. Cartridges clean it up, and it'll still flow the air. It'll still flow the same in the air bench. If you polish this versus 60 grit, it'll actually still flow the same in the flow bench. The flow bench is not that sensitive to where polishing makes that much of a difference. Polishing is more like it's kind of like a feeling when you did it. When I first started doing stuff before I started working with my flow bench, and I learned about some of the wet flow characteristics, I used to polish stuff, and plus as show. It just seems like that's the way to go, but it actually has a tendency to hurt. So that's real quick, cut and dry, simplistic explanation on wet flow. So here we go. Let's get started and go into where you need to start to clean up the ports. So on number 2 right here, and this is where I'll start the video. Okay, the video is going to start, it's going to show you from the top to the bottom, okay? But I'm going to explain to you, actually the first place that you really want to start is on the bottom, right? Do a good job and clean up. There's a ridge there from when you buy this. Clean that up and clean the casting flash all the way up to the runner into the plenum itself. Do a good job because there's airspeed is actually the quickest down there. So there's a lot of good air movement on there, and there's some good things to be made from that. So do spend extra time on that and make sure it's a nice finish, and use more of a rougher finish for sure on there, because that's definitely where the fuel's going to pool up on you even more. Your sides. If you notice when you get this, there's going to be a little bit of a ridge. Just blend that in and then clean up the casting flash. You don't really have to take it, and there's not much material to take off. You just clean it up, blend it in. That's all you need to do. Now the top of the port, where the injector is, up there, go behind the injector. You'll see it's like a bit of a hump. Clean that up. You can take some material off, but be careful. Don't get too aggressive with it because it is thinner once you get past where the cavity is of the injector and the injector goes in there. If you take too much out, you're going to cut through your intake and you're going to be pretty unhappy about that. So blend it in, smooth it out. Then when you move forward to the exit of the injector port, I didn't really open up the injector ports. They're pretty generous already, but there is some roughage on the corners of it exiting. You can clean that up and smooth it out a little bit. So that will take care of that. Now, let's show you the other ones. That was number 2, which was one of our lower ones. Number 5, we'll go through that again. Number 5 is kind of the same deal. Work your bottom. Clean that up, get that area in the bottom of the port. That's still, it's a fast moving area, and there is to be some to gain. Side walls, you're going to want to get rid of that ridge that's in there. Blend it in, clean up the casting flash all the way back to the plenum, and then again go up into the top of the port where the injector is, behind it. Take some material off, level it out, smooth it out, clean up the casting flash all the way as far as you can go into the plenum itself. You don't need to get crazy. If you just get to the runner, end of the runner, that's fine. The plenum itself, worry about the casting flash. It's not going to make a difference of whether you reach it or not. So, but definitely at least get to the exits. Work up the area all the way to the exits into the plenum itself. Alright, so the last piece here I want to talk about is your the plenum itself, going into where the throttle body is. Alright, if you look, it's really, this is kind of like an area that everybody looks at first, thinks they need to attack that, and it's because it's easy to get to. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go in there and I need to open it up. But the reality is that's not the restriction. Most of the restriction is down here. Tends to be within about 3 inches of the port exit. It's in your runner. Okay, your biggest gains will typically be found on most intakes within that 3 inches or so of the intake runner. Okay, this area is pretty much already open. Now, if you do go in there and work it, you'll see in the edges, the corners, there's a little bit of where they machine in to allow for 52 millimeter throttle body. You can blend those corners in the top, blend them in a little bit. As far as the top and bottom of the plenum, there's some casting flash that's in there. I don't touch it. I don't worry about it. The air's not really getting into that area, so don't worry about top and bottom. It's not necessary. It's just you're not gonna get any gains out of it, and you'll just be spending time that you could be spending it on something else. So you work that area. Now, the one other area that you can do a little bit of work is if you look on the sides, they look like speed bumps from the inside there. Those areas are actually where the bolts go through that bolt down your fuel rail. Okay, if you I did smooth them out a little bit. I blended them a little bit, took down a little bit of the edge. If you do go with it, be careful. Don't go too far because you will cut into the thread. All right, if you do find yourself, you cut into where you're getting into the thread, just stop. Okay, don't keep going. It's not a huge problem. You just have to use, when you put the bolts in there, you're going to have to use a thread sealer because otherwise you're going to have a vacuum. But don't go crazy. I wouldn't recommend hogging it and then using a thread sealer. That area is not that restrictive to begin with, so like I said, you could clean it up or you could just leave it, and you're not really going to see any difference. That's not where the restriction is on this in the plenum. It's all in the runners right there. Okay, so that pretty much concludes the video on this. If you have any questions about porting servers or just general questions, feel free to contact me at brent@blitzrre.com, or you can phone me at 480-734-7921. The videos kind of run a little bit long, but if you want, I'll do another video here, summarize, and I'll give you some of my opinions of why I think this intake is better than the ones that are out there. So if you feel like listening to that, I'll give you, it's kind of more of my personal opinion. Feel free to follow me along to the next video, and I'll go over some details on why this is probably one of the better intakes out there to select. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.